I like to share stories with my students, and I call them war stories. And one of my favorites was when I was a pediatric hospitalist. There was a former preemie twin who's now 3 months old. He had a previous sibling who had died of something called SIDS. At least that's what they diagnosed it as, diagnosis of exclusion. But he went into the ICU. They didn't even do a septic workup. He was extremely tachycardic, and they felt that he was septic, just gave him antibiotics without doing a spinal tap, which I frankly had not seen in my day. Anyway, I was basically doing the rubber stamp thing at the end of the week, and he was day 8 antibiotics, and I was just finishing him up. So I went to do my rounds, remembering that he was a little bit of a special case, and I'm listening, and just as the heart rate increased to a point where I said, okay, I'm not going to hear anything else, and take my stethoscope off the chest, I heard a murmur. And the murmur was really different for a baby. It was over the mitral area, and it behaved just like a mitral regurg murmur and radiated to the axilla on the baby. And I said, we never see mitral regurg in a baby. It must be some other plumbing problem. So I called the cardiologist. The cardiologist called me back 5:30 that evening and said, hey, Paul, about that baby, we ended up life flighting him up to Ann Arbor. He had an aberrant right coronary artery that came off the pulmonary artery, which is blue blood, such that when the heart became tachycardic, the papillary muscles became ischemic and the valve leaked. And there was about 2 seconds of silence, after which I said, I knew that. Of course I didn't. We were joking about that. But it was by the grace of God that I heard that murmur. I really should not have. But physical exam does make a difference, even in very high-tech settings. I had some of the best clinicians in my hospital following that baby. The baby had graduated from our NICU, and evidently I was the only one to pick up that murmur. Maybe it had just come on, but that was just an incredible experience, and I encourage all of you to listen very, very carefully. And if you hear something, say something.